Welcome to the Majordomo Staghelm 10-man heroic guide within the Firelands raid series. This guide will provide a detailed breakdown for raid leaders and curious viewers, as well as a summarized strategy with role descriptions if you're only interested in the TLDR, both of which are going to be accessible through the timestamps in the description. The Majordomo fight is widely considered to be one of the easiest fights in the raid, but can be done in some different ways. The encounter is a one-phase fight and will consist of the group managing their movement to force Majordomo to shapeshift between his three forms while killing him. While Majordomo is in either of his forms, he will gather energy, which he will use to cast an ability. Every form has one ability which you need to worry about. Majordomo's first form is the cat form. Cat form will be triggered whenever there are less than 7 people stacked together, and ideally the melee DPS will be stacked on the boss, while range DPS and healers are at max distance from the boss. When Majordomo reaches 100 energy, he will cast Leaping Flames. When cast, he will leap towards a random range DPS or healer, and when he lands, he will create a large fire patch on the ground for 1 minute, which needs to be avoided. When Leaping Flames is used, he also spawns an ad called Spirit of the Flame at the starting point of his leap. They hit for moderate damage and should be quickly killed by melee DPS and the tank. As a tip, if you start moving before Majordomo reaches 100 energy, you will be able to avoid the leap damage altogether. Majordomo's second form is the Scorpion form. Scorpion form will be triggered whenever there is at least 7 people stacked together and will be everyone except for the tank. When Majordomo reaches 100 energy, he will cast Flame Scythe, which deals massive damage split in a frontal cone. Using any of the recommended strategies, you will always avoid this ability, meaning that it should never be allowed to cast. Majordomo's final form is the Night Elf form. Night Elf form will be triggered every third shapeshift between cat and scorpion forms. The Night Elf form will last for a few seconds and will prompt either a cat or scorpion form directly after. During this period, everyone will be incapacitated and unable to act. While in this form, he will use one of the two abilities, depending on which his previous form was, if it was cat or scorpion. The first ability is called Searing Seeds. This will plant a debuff on all raid members except for the tank with different durations, ranging from 15 to 55 seconds. When the debuff expires, you will explode and do high damage to all allies within 12 yards. Make sure that you're paying attention to your debuff timers and simply run out if needed while doing the cat and scorpion mechanics per usual. The second ability is called Burning Orbs. When cast, 2 burning orbs will spawn at random locations, which will persist for 1 minute. The orbs will place a stacking 6-second dot on the target closest to the orb. You will need to rotate who is soaking the orb every 6 seconds to maintain low amount of dot stacks. Rotate soakers on the orbs while doing the cat and scorpion mechanics per usual. Whenever Majordomo shapeshifts, he will gain a stacking buff called Fury. This buff increases the damage dealt by his abilities while in cat and scorpion forms by 8% per stack. Since you will be avoiding all flame sights and should be able to dodge all damage from leaping flames if you pre-move before the cast, this mechanic is redundant when executed properly, but it will punish your group if mechanics falter towards the end of the fight. Additionally, Majordomo will gain stacks of Adrenaline whenever he casts an ability in cat or scorpion forms. Each stack increases his energy regeneration rate by 20%, causing his abilities to be cast more often. These stacks are reset whenever he swaps forms, and once again, this is neglectable on scorpion forms, but it will ramp up during cat forms as he casts Leaping Flames. As an addition, this fight has a mechanic called Concentration, which helps you deal with Majordomo's large health pool. You will see your concentration on a separate UI element called Concentration Bar. Note that this appearance varies depending on your choice of add-ons and weak auras. The concentration bar will fill with approximately 5 concentration points per second, up to a total of 100. Each point of concentration will grant you a 1% damage and healing increase up to a total of 100%. The caveat to this is that the bar resets every time you take damage, and for proper execution you will avoid any damage possible. You will aim to have as high uptime of 100 concentration points as possible. For the last part of the breakdown, we're going to walk through two different strategy types to handle this encounter effectively. The main difference between the strategies is how you deal with the fire orb mechanics, as they will lower your uptime of concentration. Fire orbs can spawn in one of two ways. In the first variant, orbs will spawn next to each other, which will allow the tank to soak both orbs. I would recommend that a designated DPS rotate the soaking with the tank to keep low stacks of the debuff. However, in an optimal scenario, you will send a healer to rotate with the tanks, as this boss requires next to no healing and the value of concentration is far higher on a DPS than a healer. You should note that healers can always be targeted by leaping flames, so in this case the healers need to make sure that they understand the timers of the fight and that they don't get a leap on them while soaking. The second variant is that they spawn on opposite sides of the room. If this happens, the tank should soak the closest orb with a melee DPS rotating the soaking. The furthest orb will be soaked by the healers, rotating every 6 seconds. In the first strategy, we will accept the randomness of the fire orb spawns and simply handle the spawns depending on if we get variant 1 or variant 2. In the second strategy, we will eliminate the second variant entirely and ensure that only variant 1 occurs when the fire orbs spawn. Let's start by looking into the first strategy. You will start in a spread position, pulling the boss towards the middle of the room. This will prompt the cat form, and your ranged DPS and healers will stay at max distance from the boss. You will allow the boss to cast Leaping Flames 6 times. Melee DPS and tanks should handle the spirits that spawn for each leap, while ranged DPS and healers should pre-move for each cast to maintain your concentration points. You're going to Bloodlust when you reach 100 concentration. After the 6th leap, you will stack up at the boss, forcing the Scorpion form. When the boss reaches 70 to 75% energy, you will spread out, forcing the first Night Elf form. Since the previous form was Scorpion, Majordomo will cast Fire Orbs before going into Cat form. You should handle the Fire Orbs according to Variant 1 or Variant 2, depending on how they spawn. Once again, you will let the boss cast 6 leaps in Cat form, after which you will stack up and prompt the Scorpion form. You should spread out at 70 to 75% energy and repeat the cat form mechanics. Once again, you will take 6 leaps and then you will stack up, which will prompt the second Night Elf form. Since the previous form was cat form, the boss will now cast Searing Seeds before going into Scorpion. It's important for everyone to watch their debuff timers and run out of the group for a few seconds before exploding, and then quickly returning to the stack point so that a shapeshift is not accidentally triggered. Once the Scorpion reaches 70 to 75% energy, you will spread out and prompt another cat form. And this pattern will continue until the boss is dead, and you should expect to see a total of 2 Fire Orbs and 1 Searing Seeds using this strategy. In the second strategy, you will initiate the fight in the same manner, by forcing cat form and taking 6 leaps. Once you have taken 6 leaps, you will now stack at the shown location on the stairs. The next shapeshift will be Night Elf into Scorpion and will prompt Fire Orbs. So when you spread, you will do so along the wall while the tank is moving the boss around the corner. This will prompt Fire Orb Variation 1, and you can return to your initial positions on the stairs. For the remaining duration of the fight, you will alternate between Cat and Scorpion forms when the boss is at 70 to 75 energy, never allowing the boss to cast any abilities. For every set of Fire Orbs, the tank needs to pull the boss around the corner, and the raid needs to run along the wall to force the Fire Orbs into a favorable position. It should be noted that this strategy will require better mechanical execution, and mistakes are very costly due to the Fury mechanic. This marks the end of the breakdown of this guide. Next, I will provide you a short TLDR, giving you a formula to get this encounter done. Start in a spread formation and pull the boss towards the middle of the room. Melee DPS and tank will stay close to the boss and hit the adds that spawn from each leap. Ranged DPS and healers will spread out at max distance from the boss and bait out a total of 6 leaps. Remember to pre-move when the boss is between 95 and 100 energy to avoid damage from the leaps. You should Bloodlust when the raid reaches 100 concentration stacks. After 6 leaps, stack up on the boss to prompt Scorpion form. Spread out again at 75 energy before the boss casts Flame Scythe. You will now get Fire Orbs. If the fire orbs are close to each other, the tank will soak both the orbs, with a designated melee DPS rotating every 6 seconds to drop the tank stacks. If the orbs are on opposite sides of the boss, the tank and designated melee DPS will still rotate on the closest orb, while healers rotate on the furthest orb every 6 seconds. All fire orbs will be handled in this manner, and you should expect to see 1 or 2 sets in the fight. The pattern of baiting 6 leaps in Cat and spreading out 75 energy in Scorpion form will be repeated until the boss is dead. After a few shapeshifts, you will get Searing Seeds. When this occurs, you should watch your debuff timer and run away from your teammates when you are below 5 seconds remaining on the debuff. For more details on this encounter, please watch the full breakdown available with the timestamps in the description. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the guide, and if you did, please make sure to leave a like and drop a comment and subscription on this channel.